Sure. Well, it's a pleasure to be here. So, a little bit about myself. I am Richard, and I am the COO and co-founder of Vite Labs. So, we founded this company in the middle of 2018, me and two other co-founders. I'm the business person, and the other two are the technocrats. And prior to Vite Labs, I was working in Wall Street and fintech entrepreneurship. So we started Vite Labs because we were interested in building a layer one protocol that implements smart contracts on the DAG platform. And the reason why we wanted to do that is to basically tackle the scalability problem. Now, 2 years later, we basically launched our mainnet. And the mainnet basically goes out to implement what our white paper, all the features that our white paper has laid out. So we've successfully implemented a smart contract platform on the DAG framework, so extremely fast, and all the transactions are completely free. The reason why you would want to acquire Vite tokens, though, is if you want a higher transaction throughput. So now on top of the Vite chain, we've implemented our flagship product, the ViteX exchange, which you can see in the background image here. Let me try to move out of the way. So ViteX stands for Vite Exchange. It's a decentralized exchange, and it basically has a user experience paralleling the centralized exchanges. It's completely decentralized, trustless, no third party involved in exchange of assets. And it's all made possible by the Vite layer one protocol. And I'm happy to go into details about ViteX and Vite later on in the interview.
Got it. Awesome. Yeah, I think for maybe some of the viewers, do you want to maybe explain a little bit about what a DAG protocol is and maybe how that fits into ViteX?
Yeah, so DAG stands for Directed Acyclic Graph. It's quite a mouthful, but DAG is a data structure for the ledger. If you think about the ledger structure for Ethereum or Bitcoin, basically you have one chain of blocks where each block consists of a number of transactions. For the transactions to get on the chain, they need to be placed into the mempool, wait for a miner to solve the hash and pack the transaction into a block and push the block onto a chain. And this takes a lot of time. This is the proof of work consensus algorithm. So what we did was we basically were inspired by the nano block lattice data structure, in which case each account has its own chain. And then when each account issues a transaction, that transaction gets written onto its own chain instead of one universal chain. So we basically have many different little chains that can asynchronously push transactions onto itself. And then, so this is the DAG sort of innovation that basically facilitates fast throughput. Simultaneously, we also use the delegated proof of stake consensus algorithm, so similar to EOS, and that sort of helps with the performance design as well. So basically, the DAG plus the DPoS facilitate a ultra-fast, high throughput network. And then on top of that, we basically set no fees. The miners, in this case, are the delegated proof of stake block producers. They get paid through the annual inflation, which is 3% roughly. And then then the V token, as I said earlier, basically facilitates a higher amount of throughput. So for example, if you want to do high frequency transaction on a DEX on top of Vite, you don't just want to do the free transactions. The free transactions are a little bit, the free transactions are, obviously the benefit is free, but if you want something extremely, extremely fast, you want to purchase Vite and stake Vite for higher TPS. So that's sort of in a nutshell what DAG is about and what consensus algorithm we use and what the purpose of purchasing Vite would be to use our network.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for that explanation. That makes a lot of sense. So, I mean, how do you get more users? A lot of people that are using these products right now, maybe on Ethereum, how are you kind of taking that approach to get people onto your platform?
Yeah, so I would say our main way of customer acquisition is twofold. Number one is through our exchange. So ViteX is, I think, unique not only in the sense that its tech facilitates fast transactions, it's a decentralized exchange, but the more important thing is that we facilitate transmining and liquidity mining. So transmining refers to the fact that when you perform a transaction on the Vite exchange or ViteX, you get coins in return. And these coins are the native coins or native tokens issued on the ViteX exchange called VX. Now, VX is not just a token that you have and it has no benefit. It actually entitles the holders to proceeds from the exchange. So listing fees and trading fees, they are all distributed through the VX holder to the VX holders. And separately, we try to onboard coins that are rare, difficult to integrate with, that have not been picked up by major exchanges. So one of our co-founders is a major crypto enthusiast in terms of altcoin trading. So he's sort of developed his own methodology of picking coins, understands the psyche behind what kinds of coins these alt enthusiasts are interested in, and we sort of go for those. So if you look at the sort of coins that we've listed, in general, they are quite rare, I would say, and they have not been picked up or noticed by the major platforms. And then the other thing about VTEX is that we have an open listing platform. So that means you can basically apply to become an operator. And once you become an operator, you have your own zone. You can list your own coins. You are entitled to the fees for listing and the fees from trading in your own zone. So anyway, so all these are mechanisms in place to help with customer acquisition. This is way number one. Way number two is through our wallet. So the Vite app, the main, it's iOS and in Android and desktop and on browser. The main purpose is to basically help people manage their crypto assets. Right now, it supports Ethereum assets, Vite native assets, and it supports Grin. Yeah, in fact, through Grin, we get quite a bit of flow as well, because there surprisingly aren't a lot of user-friendly and, to my knowledge, mobile-first crypto wallets for Grin. Mm-hmm. So that's a second way for us to onboard people.
Got it. Yeah, really interesting. So almost the first DAG-based decentralized exchange.
It is, yes.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. What kind of what are you guys? How do you approach liquidity within the platform itself?
Yeah. So, well, every time we list a new altcoin, we do serious co-marketing, right? Mutual AMAs. We do campaigns, and in general, because there's a small application listing fee, we use that fee to basically purchase tokens, run campaigns, and then to also provide the initial liquidity. Separately, because we have this market making as mining feature, which is basically your liquidity yield, liquidity mining, right? What some people call yield farming these days. So basically, if you make a market on the exchange, the closer you are to the best bid and best ask, the more VX coins you would obtain. So this incentivizes people to provide liquidity. So basically, through marketing, through rebates in the form of this liquidity mining mechanism, we're able to basically bootstrap liquidity.
Got it. Very, very interesting. So one of the big, very important things within any sort of decentralized exchange is security. How do decentralized oracles fit into the ViteX platform, and how do you incorporate them?
So decentralized oracles would become useful when we launch products that have data feeds that are not on chain. So right now, we only have spot market. So therefore, decentralized oracles don't get actively used as of yet. But when we do have these more sophisticated products, so whether they be indices or derivatives or these sort of futures contract products, then you would need these off-chain data feeds. And that's when decentralized oracle becomes extremely important.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Can you explain maybe a little bit about the relationship with Chainlink and kind of how that came about and how it's been working with the Chainlink team?
Yeah, so in general, Chainlink offers decentralized Oracle service. And not only would that be helpful for off-chain data feeds that go into more sophisticated financial products that will be traded on our exchange, they'll also be generally useful for non-financial products, right? So remember, ViteX is the exchange on top of Vite, but Vite can do much, much more than supporting an exchange, right? It can be used to build the apps. In fact, we actually built some kind of coronavirus donation tracking system on top of each chain. So our team, a lot of our developers are based in China. We are very much affected by the issues of coronavirus. So, and following the call for basically helping track these goods, we created a system on top of each chain. And one of the things that potentially a decentralized Oracle service such as Chainlink could be helpful there is to basically facilitate reliable, more decentralized, less of a single point of failure data feeds for any kind of off-chain data. So in this case, it would be things like for products like things like that track temperature, things that track health data, and in this case, it could be say donated goods. So this kind of information that as long as it's not on chain, we would benefit from having some sort of reliable off-chain data feed. And that's where the Oracle service would come in.
Very interesting. Okay, great. I think that's a good segue. Do you want to maybe talk a little bit about more on just Vite Labs and maybe your future roadmap and everything that you guys are working on that front?
Yeah, so our main prerogative right now is to continue to bootstrap liquidity on ViteX. Out of all of our efforts, ViteX so far seems to have had the most payoff because the truth is the best product market fit right now outside of Bitcoin being digital gold is these products that facilitate speculation or value transfer. So the exchange is basically the ideal place for something like that. And now what we learned is that the market actually doesn't necessarily place a premium on the fact that you are decentralized. They place a premium when it comes to exchanges, they place a premium whether you have coins they want to trade, whether you have good UX, whether you have a deep liquidity. So I think continuing to onboard coins at a fast clip and be able to facilitate the right kind of liquidity will be our main focus going forward. Now, so I'll give you one example of a feature that we think would be very beneficial for our traders. So there are many stablecoins out there, and people need to convert from one stablecoin to another for whatever reason. And we haven't seen any exchanges out there that provide zero transaction fees for this kind of inter stablecoin conversion. And that's a feature that we're going to implement. Now, so this, in fact, this feature has pretty much been implemented, but because we're a decentralized exchange, we require a hard fork. So this thing will probably be released in a month or so. So definitely look out for that announcement, everyone. And this would be one feature that we put in to provide convenience to our traders. And it would be another way to basically boost customer acquisition. So basically bringing more traffic to ViteX is an extremely important prerogative. Another aspect I'd like to talk about is there are multiple open source trading strategy projects out there. So Hummingbot, for example, is a well-known one. Mm-hmm. And we're basically integrating with our open source library now to help our traders have one-click access to these common trading strategies that they can deploy on our platform, right? So that would just make their lives easier. And then outside of this, we'll also look to implement more sophisticated order types and so forth. So anyway, everything I've basically been saying is around boosting the traffic on our ViteX. Now, aside from this, there are a few things that are happening behind the scenes that people might not be aware of, such as, cleaning up the tech debt, beefing up our security, and yeah, that kind of infrastructural layer. And outside of this, I think I'd also like to mention some more, uh, how should I put it, heterogeneous marketing techniques. So we're doing two different things. Number one is that we're launching a program called the ViteX Ambassador. So we'll be doing these AMA types of things where somebody other than me will be interviewing projects listed on our platform. So, our traders can get a better sense for the nature of these projects. And the second thing is that I actually run a podcast myself. The podcast is called Blockchain Debate Podcast. So it's basically a place for the thinkers in the crypto land to come together and debate a hot button topic of the day. Right? I started this because I think the whole industry was going through some kind of soul searching, right? Basically, euphemism for finding product market fit. And then I think in this process, I discovered that there were many different religious cults in the space. There are people that believe X is better than Y, right? There's these maximalists. And then there are people that, and there's no coiners, obviously. So there's crypto versus non-crypto. Within crypto, there's, your store value narrative versus everything else. And then you got your smart contracts. Are they smart? Are they dumb? And then you got enterprise blockchain versus, are they actual blockchains? Right? And can blockchain actually be useful for enterprise purposes? There's CBDC, there's like chain analysis. Is that evil? Or anyway, so the bottom line is I started this podcast to try to answer all these questions. And through this podcast, I've been able to network with some of the best thinkers and hopefully garner attention to our side of the world, and exporting our brand through this platform. So yeah, so check it out. It's on Twitter at Block Debate, or if you just Google Blockchain Debate Podcast, you'll find us. I think we're the only debate podcast for blockchain topics.
Yeah, that's a really cool approach. I'll definitely drop that link into the description for everyone after this video.
Okay,
I think that kind of brings up like an interesting perspective. You kind of see both sides of, the East and like the Asia area, as well as living in the San Francisco Bay Area and everything that's happening here in the States. What are the differences in your perspective with like the perspective of blockchain on both sides, and what differences do you see?
Yeah. So I think there are definitely a lot of differences, and we can probably talk about various aspects. I think maybe in terms of the tech breakthrough, so I would definitely say the West has a major advantage. So, zero knowledge proofs, bullet proofs, all these inventive consensus algorithms, they've all come out of the West, America, to be honest, in general. And there are various reasons for that. I think there's a culture for free thinking. It is a place where, we enjoy freedom of speech after all. It's a very undervalued quality of life in the States, by the way. And so, yes, from innovation perspective, technical innovation perspective, it's definitely stronger here. And that's why I think it's helpful for us to have a team here to sort of learn from what's on the ground and export that information for our team in China to adopt and learn. And then, but I think from the engineering implementation perspective, I feel that the China side seems to have an advantage in terms of speed. So, I've actually never professionally worked in China prior to this. And a cultural shock for me is that the engineers work extremely hard and everything just seems to happen much, much faster. The pace of shipping a product, the pace of designing, the pace of testing, the pace of doing product management is all much faster. Now that does have its trade-offs. So there will be edge cases, and the product when it gets first launched seems to be a little bit rough around the edges. It doesn't cover all the different scenarios. And in some cases there might be even typos in something to a perfectionist. It doesn't meet the bar. But the culture is to ship as quickly as soon as possible because everyone else is doing that. And if they beat you to the punch, they can basically suck up a large amount of the attention. So I think in terms of implementation, sort of the from one to n angle, I hate to stereotype, but the Chinese side is much better than here. And I think in terms of just tokenomics, I think the China side definitely also has, you know, various innovations. I mean, there are a few notorious examples, right? With because I don't want to name names here, but everyone kind of knows just very ingenious marketing mechanisms and token economics to get things going. That's very different from here in the States. And so, but what I've also noticed is that there's a huge information gap. So, there are things that people take for granted in China. They assume everyone would know, and people in America would not. And the same goes the other way. So when Compound made a big splash out here, I think my colleagues only found out about it days later. And when, some prominent crypto company got busted for being associated with some kind of scams in China, people don't find about it here in America until days later as well. Yeah, but I think it's going to be very interesting. So if you think about it, most of the mining for Bitcoin is based in China now. A lot of the major players in crypto land in trading, and maybe even just in all crypto trading, are based out there, right? But a lot of the innovation will be coming out of here in the US. And I think in the age of increasing tension between the two countries, it's going to be fascinating to see how people from both places will collaborate instead of see each other as competitors. And in
Yeah.
general, I see people that speak both languages will have a major advantage in sort of the front row seat into observing what's happening in both places.
Yeah, that's a very interesting perspective, and I totally agree that information asymmetry is just pretty incredible, and learning multiple languages will definitely be able to kind of help tear down some of those differences. If people want to follow you and learn more and stay in touch with your community, where would be the best place for people to join and follow?
Yeah, so I'm active on Twitter. So my Twitter account is Gentso09, GENTSO09. If you're in America, you know about the dish General Tso's chicken. That's where this came from, GENTSO. And then Gentso was taken by someone else, so I put Gentso09 on there. And then I'm also active on my other Twitter account, Block Debate. That's block like blockchain and debate. That's my blockchain debate podcast. And then obviously Vite Labs. That's one word, Vite, VITE Labs. That's also another Twitter account. And then finally our ViteX exchange. And that's one word, ViteX exchange. So VITEX exchange.
Got it. Yeah. I'll make sure to drop those links for everyone. Otherwise, is there anything else that you want to mention to everyone that's viewing in?
Well, so definitely check out ViteX. We have interesting coins out there, and we'll be looking to add a lot more coins in the coming days. We currently have a campaign to have people recommend coins to list. So if you check out our Twitter feed on Vite Labs, you'll see that. And actually, you should also follow our CEO's Twitter account. And that's CHUNMING_LIU. It's a little bit hard to pronounce, hard to kind of spell it out. You just drop it in the show notes, I trust. And so, yeah, and then we'll have a VTEX ambassador program being rolled out with basically doing video AMAs with our projects, which would be a lot of fun as well. And yeah, no, that's it. I guess it's great. It's great being connected with Chainlink, and look forward to pushing the space forward together.
Perfect. Yeah, Richard, it was really a pleasure speaking with you, and it's a pleasure working with the Vite team and yourself. And we're really excited to see you growing, and excited for the future. For everyone tuned in, thank you again for joining us. It's really exciting times. Excited to have everyone very interested in joining and learning more about all the projects within the Chainlink community. I'll be dropping all the links into the description afterwards. Also want to thank the other team members that helped put this all together on the Vite side as well as on our side. And we'll be doing a lot more of these in the future. So make sure to subscribe to our channel and you'll know when we go live in the future. Otherwise, again, Richard, thank you very much and have a great rest of your evening.
Okay, thanks for your time, Keenan. Goodbye.